A very good evening to all the educators, parents, policy makers, administrators, students, and respected panelists. I, Chetan Khurana, co-founder of Skills Reform, would like to welcome you all on behalf of our team to this third and last discussion under our Learning Series 2. Skills Reform is a platform that imparts training and career guidance to schoolgoers, collegegoers, and working professionals to make them self-reliant in choosing the right career path, be it choosing the right subjects, a right college in India or abroad, finding great jobs, or starting their own venture. We are trying to bridge these skills gap and transform lives. After spending almost a decade in higher education and skilling, this topic of higher education and skilling the millions is very close to my heart. And I am extremely delighted that we have been successful in pulling these gems, our panelists, from different parts of the country and different domains and expertise. And having them here today to put their heads together, discuss and give their valuable suggestion on how we as a country of 1.5 billion population can come out with a plan to successfully implement NEP 2020 in higher education and how skill, reskill and upskill the youth and make them more employable, innovative and entrepreneurial. Thank you to all the panelists, and we are deeply honored and grateful to have you here. But before I introduce today's moderator, it is my humble request to all the wonderful viewers here to kindly keep yourself on mute throughout the session, as one of the most sincere forms of respect would actually be to listen to what panelists have to say. So kindly listen, absorb, and action on the content to get maximum benefit out of it. Also, thank you so much to all of you for sending your questions through our various social media channels. And for you, we are now live on Facebook. So all you can put your questions either here in the chat box on Zoom or on the Facebook page of Skills Reform. Now, without much ado, let me introduce the moderator of today's session, Ms. Amrita. Ms. Amrita is the Executive Director of Gujarat Biotechnology University project, working with University of Edinburgh, UK. Ms. Amrita's role is to operationalize the partnership and to deliver external engagement with government, industry, and other stakeholders. GBU is India's first biotechnology university and autonomous institution located on newly built campus adjacent to GIFT city in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. GBU is established in partnership with University of Edinburgh, a top 20 global university with leadership across the life sciences. The GBU University of Edinburgh partnerships is novel and innovative model of transnational partnership, with a new institution placing excellence and innovation at its core to deliver biotechnology solutions for society's need. Ms. Amrita established and led the South Asia Regional Center for the University of Edinburgh from 2010 till 2020 and has held roles at British High Commission, PR, and marketing at leading multinationals from 2000 to 2009. Ms. Amrita has a master's in biochemistry and research experience in cancer biology. And she would make the best coordinator for this session as she brings her expertise from a university in UK and now working on a project in higher education in India. Ms. Amrita, most welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chetan, for this opportunity and to Skills Reform for bringing me together along with this excellent panel and a wonderful audience to speak on this very key topic in higher education. So the topic for today, skilling the millions in higher education, is interesting more so because we're talking about skilling in the context of higher education and not skilling on its own, which is quite a different and significant topic in itself. I think what we have here are eminent educationists and an excellent set of questions with which to explore these thoughts and these topics. So before I introduce them, I'd just like to place my key thought on this topic out there for you. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. I think that is absolutely at the center of effective education translating into skills. It is my pleasure to introduce first Professor B.S. Satyanarayana, who currently heads the C.V. Raman Global University as founder and vice chancellor. Professor Satyanarayana holds a PhD in electrical engineering from Cambridge University and has worked on industry, R&D, in academia, policy across 35 years in India, Japan, and the UK. In the last 10 years alone, Professor Satyanarayana has developed a unique pedagogy based on teaching, learning, experiential learning, research, industry, and societal engagement. And this is in line with the development of knowledge, skills, and with the expectations of the NEP. The major outcomes of these efforts by Professor Satyanarayana include establishing and facilitating over 75 industry-based labs and courses and facilities for skilling, R&D, and development. Professor has published over 175 papers, guided 6 PhDs, and delivered over 300 talks, as well as been granted 4 patents. He has been featured in print and visual media and won multiple awards for his research, leadership, and innovative work. Welcome, Professor Satyanarayana. Dr. Hari Krishna Maram is Digital Brand Ambassador and Chairman of Vision Digital India, Vice Chancellor, Global Digital University, and Director, Stayfit India, Stayfit Private Limited. Dr. Maram's work in the field of management and management education spans over 26 years. He has worked in leading multinational Novartis Pharmaceuticals and has had an illustrious career in education, serving as in the governing council as member at All India Management Association, vice president at All Association of Indian Management Schools, and many other institutions. I find most interesting Dr. Maram's service at Bangalore Green, which aims at environmental conservation in the beautiful city of Bangalore. Throughout his lifetime, he has received various awards, such as the prestigious Knighthood Award from the UK, MTC Global Top 10 Thinkers, Ramaswamy P. Iyer Best Young Teacher Award, Education Evangelist of India Award, and many, many others. Welcome, Dr. Maram. Dr. Manju Gupta is Dean Academics at the Institute of Management Studies, Noida, and has 24 years of rich multicultural experience across the education industry. She has strong credentials in rolling out innovative teaching methods, online training, business strategies, operational excellence across diverse disciplines, and offering performance-driven leadership and training experience in many areas. Dr. Gupta successfully manages P&L, competitive intelligence, project management, process excellence, and is handling the courses of Harvard Business School, SAP, IBM, etc. Welcome, Dr. Gupta. May I now invite our panelists to provide a perspective, 1 or 2 minutes to start us off on this very interesting topic. May I start, Professor Satyanarayana?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Hello. Good evening.
Yes, sir, you are.
For some reason, yes, my network seems to be going. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. I think we are indeed, I mean, this is, as already mentioned by both Mr. Chetan and Ms. Amrita, when we are in an exciting time and also very challenging times. The whole world is in the middle of the knowledge economy, and therefore education is a key enabler, skill is a key enabler. Without that, I mean, nothing is going. If you even the last month, 2 months back, a report from the World Economic Forum clearly said that, I mean, about 95% of people are looking at some form of skilling or some form of knowledge enabling, either for continuing in their current job or moving to their new job. And many of over 85% also believe they will need actually academic inputs also. So it means it's a very exciting prospect to be in an academic domain. And again, when you look at an Indian context, we are in a very challenging domain because currently we have about 40 million people in higher education expected to go to, depending on whose prediction you go and how the whole education scenario changes, anything from 130 to 150 million people by 2030. And we will have about 600 million people in jobs, and many of them even in lifelong learning will need to have skilling. And therefore, when you're talking of employability, skilling, and education, therefore, it is truly a very daunting task for all of us. And therefore, this needs to be, and the NEP, I think, has not come even 1 minute late. I mean, maybe it's already 5-10 years late in one sense, but at least it is there, is a huge advantage. But the key is, how do we transform with this NEP into the new domain? Because we have always been business as usual. Education reforms have said roughly the same thing since Radhakrishnan committee. But we have, again, whatever was done, we have successfully, with subtle variation, fit it into the clerical education of passing exams, of to know. Whereas today it is to know, to do, to understand and implement. And you need to have, analytical skill, critical skills, and also even be innovative and creative, because that is the way things are evolving. Anything which is repeatable is going to be automated and we are no more needed. And that is where whole of the change in education that is calling for. So in this context, I think it's very critical that we relook at the whole education. And we as an educator are trying to see how do we bring in experiential learning from day one, project-based learning. I mean, making students understand their fundamentals very well and see that they do multidisciplinary assignments and projects from day one. And they are again taught to think. I mean, again, our matrices should be so set that even the specifications given for them while doing a project has to make them clearly understand that gone are the days when just knowing some information and getting a job is done. You need to have the skill. I mean, if I were to develop a experiential learning for an electrical mobility for driving on an Indian road, I should know learning as much as I know my software skills to mechatronics to electronic programming. So that is where I think the whole process of education, knowledge, and skilling is becoming very exciting and also very challenging. NEP in a way is giving us a huge sort of menu on offer, but all of us are still struggling in a way maybe, or trying to figure out our own recipes and our own ingredients to deliver it successfully, because we, as I said, are trying to see how can we enable this for not just the 40 million, but maybe 130 million people. And again, maybe a 200 to 300 who are in the jobs will also need skilling specification. And this calls on an entirely new changed mindset for us to deliver it. And it has to happen only with experiential learning first, and then knowledge linked to it. So, and there is no more discrimination between vocational education and skilling and conventional education. All of them have to go together. And therefore, it's a very challenging task. And I hope we'll be able to do some justice in whatever short time we are discussing on this issue now. Thank you. I'm not sure if I am having a problem, but I can't hear anything. I'm extremely sorry.
Yeah, it's fine, sir.
I'm not able.
No, you are
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. We can hear you.
Sir, we are able to hear.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You are very audible.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. So I think as an opening remark, I would just want to therefore stop with this saying that we as an institution in the last 8 to 10 years, wherever we have been trying to create this experiential learning provision, and happy to say that we're actually, even whether the constraints of a college, constraints of an autonomy institution, as a new university, everywhere we have still been able to make a small difference. That I can say in the last 10-15 years of my experience in India, though earlier we had set up companies in Japan, worked with startups in Korea, worked with Singapore, various other countries. Even in India, we are able to create about 1,000 crores of infrastructure, bringing in experiential learning, working with about 100 odd companies have invested in it. So I think depending on how the discussion evolves, maybe we'll be able to give more example. But then I believe NEP has come at the right time for us to put all this even a bigger and a more higher platform and showcase that it is very critical. We simply, as I said in the beginning, lose the distinction between skill and knowledge. Skill and knowledge have to be seamlessly linked to understanding, understanding leading to inquiry, inquiry leading to inspiration, ideation, and innovation, and all of them happening from the very first day of education, so that the excitement or the joy of learning is there in the education. The product, process, solutions, problem solving happens, and this leads to entrepreneurship also coming out literally as they go out of education. And plus the whole provision that NEP provides today of multiple times, I mean, you can pitch in and pitch out. You can come out any time of the system, come back to the system. We have already, for example, in our university made provisions for such activity that they could anytime stop out and then say even carry out their ideas for a company and come back and join. And equally, we are experimenting, working with skilling from school level to ITI diploma and see how do we seriously actually link all of them from our curriculum, so that there is no more distinction and people could truly go into the, as is expected, lifelong learning at education and an education-centric learning, with skill as a center, because stone, because knowledge and skill have to go together, because other routine things will anyway be done by machines. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Satyanarayana. That was an immense amount of information, but so absolutely to the point and very crucial to have this innovation of being able to come in and out to ensure that skilling and practicality, critical thinking, analysis is very much at the center of the approach to education, whether in higher education or a skilling setting. Thank you very much. Dr. Maram, may I invite your comments, please, at this time, 2-minute perspective on the topic at hand.
Thank you. I think digital greetings to each one of you. It's wonderful to be a part of this skill reform panel discussion on wonderful topic called Skilling Millions. And it is wonderful and a pleasure to be a part of a great panel consists of Dr. Satyanarayana, Dr. Manju Gupta, and Amruta. And I congratulate this great initiative of skill form headed by Chetan Kurana as well as Chaitanya Sabarwal. I think I feel this is a very relevant topic for today, specific to India as well as to the global audience. Because today, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Satyanarayan, today we have closely 1.5 billion students across the world. And when it comes to India, it is one of the largest education system, which consists of more than, I think, in this month itself, there is an addition of one more 20 universities. So altogether, we'll be having 1,065 universities in our country, and more than 52,000 colleges, and 560,000 primary schools, and more than 1 million, play schools and primary educational institutions. So altogether, I think we have one of the largest education system, again, with 400 million students, that is 40 crore. And definitely India is unlike any other country. We have an advantage of the demographic dividend, that is the young population. We have out of 1.35 billion population, we have a 60% of our population is below 35 age. So this makes India is again one of the largest education system for the future also. So today, if you take about any stream, for example, if you take engineering as the major stream, today we have closely 850 to 9 lakh students. They take engineering every year from different colleges, more than 4,500 colleges, engineering colleges, and also including universities. But the number of jobs what today available is limited, and that too today the situation where we are, where economy is down, where global recession is there. So the challenge is providing jobs, and in the same time, today the entire education is become online. So now there are large number of states already announced there is no exams. So you can pass 10th, you can pass PUC. Maybe after a few days, there will be no entrance examination. Already the NEET and other exams are postponed. And I feel in the next coming 1 month, it is very difficult to conduct any other even entrance examinations, and even to conduct the semester or annual exams. So in this kind of a situation, how you can provide a job? So this is the greatest challenge to any industry. So because the majority of the people will be having a same rank, same percentile. So then how you select? So the skills make a major kind of recruitment criteria in coming days, because the majority of our universities not changed the syllabus, as rightly told by Dr. Satyanarayan again. Today, after 3 decades of the gap, we are having the new education policy in India, which is talking about a lot of reforms, a lot of challenges, a lot of guidelines. And definitely it is required because since we have a largest education system and the demographic dividend, the youth. So I think in this kind of a scenario, in this kind of a roadmap, I think the topic which we are going to discuss, skills to million, is a very relevant. I can say skills to billion is required. Today we have closely 8 billion people, so skills are required to each the working population today, because the global economy, if you look, $100 trillion is already in the minus, closely 20% minus growth. So without skills, I think it is very difficult to move further in a coming days, in the coming years. I think let us discuss with a very esteemed panel about this topic, and take few like ideas from all the participants who are there in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maram. This is indeed very interesting. The scale of the issue is certainly something to be considered in this discussion. May I invite Dr. Manju Gupta, please, to give your perspectives.
Thank you, Amrita. Professor Maram has rightly said, degree becomes a piece of paper unless it is not having the right skill set. I always say to my students, on the basis of degree, you can enter in the company. But in order to prove yourself, in order to sustain in the company, you need to have the right skill set, which is lacking in terms of traditional education system. If you look at India is relatively a younger nation compared to our neighbors. Every year, around 28 million youth get added to Indian workforce. So as per an assessment conducted by SOCHM as well as National Sample Survey, 20% out of 5 million students who graduate every year get employed in India, which is very less. So industry leaders have often already pointed out the lack of conformity between what is taught in the classroom and what is required to the industry. So there is a very, very big gap between what we are teaching them in the classroom and what actually the industry requires. So this gap has to be bridged up. And for last 5 years or maybe 10 years, industry and academia are coming together and they are working on this, bridging the gap between the industry and the academia so that we can produce the right product. So what kind of product company require? That is the main essential need of an institution. So institutions are working very hard. But then the most, big challenge is that there is a very strong need to have the change mindset of students. Because students feel that the university degree is enough for them to get sustained, in the industry. But then I don't think so that will definitely work, because they need to have a good skill set. Because if you look at traditional curriculum, be it marketing or maybe finance or in terms of IT education, because sometimes student feels that, those students who are doing engineering or maybe computer science engineering or BTech, they feel that when they are doing computer science, that means they should have only the computers knowledge. But then they do not think that the equal importance of management subject also lies in terms of engineering, in IT engineering basically. Because if they get any of the project, so feasibility analysis of that project is also very important. Cost and estimation of that project is very important. So every company now look out for those managers who are techno managers. They are not simply managers, they are techno managers. Those who are having the technical skill set as well as the management skill sets. So these kind of skills is very, very important. If you look at the, when analyzing the gap by the, government of India, they have set up Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, MSDE we call it, and scheme under the purview such as Pradhan Mantri Kushal Vikas Yojana, Skill India, Sankalp, and National Skill Development Missions. So such kind of skills has already been announced by the government and they are doing good. But despite these skills, and as per 2018 reports by Labor Bureau, almost 58% of unemployed graduate and 62% of postgraduate have mentioned known availability of job matching their skills and education, which was the primary reason for their unemployment. When we see that, despite of so many skill mission has been announced by the government, and so many institution and university are aligning themselves with the ICT and UGC, and they are working on skill education, but still there is a very, very big gap. 58% of the company have given their conformity that they are not getting job because of lack of the skills. So then we need to address this topic, and I'm sure skill reform has fantastically come up with this topic, because which is the basic needs. So I think this gap need to be addressed, and we will definitely discuss more about in the coming session, in this more about it, how we can bridge this gap, and what kind of skill is essential to become a good manager, and what kind of skills is required to become an IT manager, or further I can say finance manager. So such kind of skills need to be added into their traditional curriculum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. Really important point you made there to say that, for students to, why do most students or parents go to education, go to a higher education program? It's because, you want to get your foot in the door for a job. And, one point, of course, going back to Professor Satyanarayana is, of course, this whole interest in entrepreneurship. There is, of course, a lot of it happening in India, but we need to make that ecosystem much stronger. But as you say, once you enter an organization, the ability to succeed, to progress, to make a difference certainly comes with an entrepreneurial mindset as well. It's not just about, spinning out a company on one's own. So thank you very much for all those perspectives. It's a really good place to start. I'll go to a question for Professor Satyanarayana. You indeed have a great deal of, practical experience in addressing some of these challenges that we've spoken about. So we'd like to invite your perspective on the implementation of NEP 2020 in the higher education sector as related to employment.
Yeah, I think as already mentioned both by Dr. Maram and Dr. Manju, it's very critical that skills and knowledge, case study, project-based education are all seamlessly integrated. And this calls for a lot more planning and implementation of education from the academic system. So even in a first year, for example, if the students are coming in, the student should, many times people think, why is there an English course in my engineering program or a medical program or a physiotherapy, say pharmacy program, or why am I even learning a regional language sometimes in some state? And then, of course, they don't appreciate the need for physics, chemistry, maths. They think, oh, I'm a computer science engineer, I only need programming. But then programming is a knowledge competence. It's just that, but to implement a product in a mechanical domain or medical domain, or even in, say, agriculture, I need the physics, chemistry, maths competence for quantitative ability to understanding fundamentals of whether it is a material or the physical principle that go into the sensor or process. So therefore, the key is faculty first orient themselves well, because again, the biggest challenge today is orienting the faculty. Our quality of research, we have publishing paper numbers have increased, but then we don't have quality products in this country. Everything is imported. Many times we have discussed earlier in other forums also, just one of the most established two companies, let us say from India, Hero Honda and Maruti, or and let us say Mahindra, together deliver over $1 billion of royalty. They are established leaders in this country for the last, they pay over $1 billion of royalty, but they don't invest $1 million in Indian academic R&D or education system. And the teachers who have come again have seriously not done research in product process systems. They have all done a wonderful academic papers leveraging Indian government resources as supportive work to international, but not many of them can say they have done one serious product for a local. And sometimes they even look at demeaningly, if it is a smaller product, saying, oh, it's a small technical activity, but then we can't make a pin. So therefore, we need to plan our education in such a way that with a system and design thinking overview, that the latest, whether it's an electricity, a whole as from economics to management, engineering to, physics, chemistry, and everybody should say, let us say, look at electrical mobility, water management, smart cities. So how do we all, every one of our assignment should be an integrated, that needs a bit of planning from the faculty. But if we do that, what happens is now we distribute our assignment as multidisciplinary assignments. We assess them together, give the student project-based study and give him specific questions. Say a same 100 students could be given 100 questions in this project because there are 200 or 1,000 questions there. So can you do that system thinking, provide it as question from day one, even in the first semester, that we thought exercise? As a project-based study, assignment. Next time it could be more calculation, quantitative based activity. So if a bit of planning is done, so by the time second or third year, depending on the program, the student himself would have developed aspiration over some area of fascination, and therefore he might, by the time he comes out, have knowledge every time he has presented. So communication, interpersonal skills, working as a group, they have also communicated. They understand the complexity of what is needed from a social perspective. Let us say an electrical car is moving on the road. Even today, with everybody honks so hard, nobody moves. But then an electrical vehicle is going to be silent. Its ability to accelerate is huge. Where is the social, change that I'm going to bring in education and advocacy to say, how do I move out of a vehicle when an electrical mobility vehicle is coming on my street, which is going to be silent? So therefore, that thought process and education, if we link it, it can happen. And that's when I said we have done small experiments, as I said, with some of this activity, that it led to say first, satellite launch between 4 colleges, or a first solar car that ran a 3,000-kilometer rally. From a first year experiment, by the third year, a product was done. 50 companies came on board and invested 2.5 crores for a 20 lakh investment from a college to product to happen. So I believe it is feasible in an Indian context, irrespective of whether I'm a college, whether I'm a university or an autonomous institution. So therefore, it is a first teacher orientation has to change to work together and give the right metrics for the student to do assignments. What are the parameters? So do not simply give an assignment and blindly cut and paste and correct, but define the matrices in terms of cost, because everybody has to have a component of management component into it, a system and design thinking component into it, the technical component. But then his specific question should be more on his domain. But from his school and +2 or first year domain, he should also be able to understand abroad. That's where the multidisciplinarity comes. So if we do that, as we say, in an Indian context, at a very suboptimal cost, it is feasible and scalable. And therefore, but then the key is now, how do we give away our caste system and truly start working in a multidisciplinary way? And then I think there is absolutely feasible and innovative. These students already, for example, in small things we have done, students have become entrepreneurs. Now, I'm not even talking of saying working in Japan or South Korea or England, but in India, students have become technical entrepreneurs, not just service industry. And service industry, it's a 50% of future growth. Among multiple SSAs, 50% is service industry, 50% is innovative, disruptive technology. From India, about 10 to 20 trillion, depending on whose prediction. So that's a huge number for a 2.75 trillion economy. And therefore, we teachers have to come together, plan the assignments and practice in an integrated way with system design thinking, and bring skill and knowledge together from the day one of education and create the joy of learning rather than the drudgery of rote learning and repeated for the clerical examination.
Thank you, sir. I think what you brought out is hugely important in terms of the change needs to come from the institutions, needs to come from how we support and train our faculty, and this needs to be on an ongoing basis. Absolutely.
And one more point, just to add, and the key point is, we have to do away with this summative end semester. We shouldn't be worried about end semester loss. The formative assessment in every case study, every project study should have made the fundamental understanding, and an honest, integrated ethical assessment should be good enough that I don't need even idiotic billion people sitting and formulating for an exam, which is then putting everything into the dustbin. And again, it doesn't lead to anything, because all our first class cannot find a job. IASC PhD without the umbilical cord of his professor cannot even find a postdoc. It's so sad. Therefore, I think the formative assessment has to be made stronger. That is where the defining of this matrices and then the skilling and the knowledge will by default get integrated seamlessly.
So a huge change in terms of how we also assess our students as they move through the process, through the journey. And another point that I'd like to address to Dr. Gupta is, later is how we align with industry when we, go through these changes, which I think are but necessary. So if I may go to Dr. Gupta now and then come back to Dr. Maram. Dr. Gupta, we have heard, and I think we're all on the same page with integrating skills and knowledge is absolutely necessary so that we are able to deliver employable, skilled graduates. How do we get industry to work much more closely? From a management perspective, a problem solving perspective, how do we integrate these two? Because as Professor Satyanarayana mentioned, some of our largest companies spend on importing, on licenses, but that spending on R&D in India is still a gap that we haven't bridged, where this process works much more efficiently in the US, UK, some of these other economies. So your perspectives on this, please.
Yeah, this is very true that there is a gap. But then I told that a lot of institution and industry are coming together and they're working together for the betterment of the students. But still there are certain management skills that can get the job market to swipe up even during difficult times. So here are the various skills which I'm going to tell to the students. The most important skill is the technical skill, be it for a manager or for an IT student or for even a media student or even a law student. Generally, it is always in mind of the media student that we do not require any technical skill. But now I feel the entire digital journalism is there. Entire digital things are happening in terms of journalism industry and media industry. So they need to train themselves as per the need of the industry. Similarly, if you look at the law industry, so the entire law is now changing themselves into AI domain. So that is again very, very essential thing. So if I look at the skill set, what kind of skills students should possess to get, place themselves in the industry? AI, design thinking, robotics, and specifically look out the IT, because generally I see the syllabus of IT of, BTech IT or BTech CS. Still they are learning C and C++ fundamental subject in their first semester. These fundamental subjects are important because these are the foundation of any programming. But then if you look at the Java, course content, which is in the second semester of BTech CS and IT, again, the Java content are very, very fundamental content, which is not required to the industry, because industry look for struts and Hibernate. Industry look for Joomla, Drupal, and Magento, which is not in this syllabus. So such kind of syllabus this thing has to be changed by the universities also. If you look at, nowadays international universities are working on creating boards, and that has been inculcating into the syllabus, but still our university has not changed their syllabus as per the need. So that means creating boards, students should know that how to create the board, how this board can be aligned with the AI curriculum, how we can learn Python and machine learning. I see the syllabus of various university, Python and machine learning is there in the syllabus, but then again 2 chapters or 3 chapters, that will not work. That is not essential for the student, not enough for the students. But if you look at web development, students are learning still PHP, but then I think that Drupal, Magento, WordPress, Joomla, such kind of tools are already available, and these tools are working very good into web development industry. So students should go through that. But then I cannot say that students should sit ideal and they should feel that if it is not in our university syllabus, we will not do. So they should not wait for that time. They should align themselves as per, so many open source tools are available online, and some of the companies are giving free courses also, and some are paid courses. So they could go through these courses along with their degrees, because until and unless they do not have degree, they will not get placed in the industry. So degree and skill both are very important. I generally take always an example. Whenever any of the plumber or electrician come to your house, you give 500 or 1000 bucks just for 1 minute or sometime 2 minutes, because you are not aware that what he is going to do and what is actually the problem. But then he is not having that respect in the market. Similarly, when you are working in a company and you are getting good salary also, and you are having a good status also, because you are having right skill set as well as the degree. So this is the only need, that you should have to have the degree plus skills. But then if you look at technological skill set, then emotional intelligence is one of the most fundamental skill that have become a mandate in the organization, is emotional intelligence. So, and understanding of emotions that an individual achieve when even the hardest goal within the organization. And of course, these are the general management skills, I can say. Transparency. When looking for the commencement of a career in management profile, a candidate must have to be transparent. So in management, there is no space for duplicacy. A manager is responsible for leading a team where an employee expect the leader to be transparent And of course, the skill of commercial awareness is one of the most important skill, which is very, very essential. Business are actively seeking aspirant who possess strong commercial skill sets, strong commercial awareness in terms of kick-starting their career in the management domain. An appropriate understanding of marketplace and how the business operate is very essential. And they should have to have the skills of celebrating employee success, giving them reward. A manager should always be cheerful for his team and should recognize and celebrate each success of team. So these are some of the general skill set in terms of becoming a manager. But then I strongly feel that today is again a very, very strong demand to have a technical skill, be it a management student, be it IT student or law student, because I feel that some of the marketing students are going for marketing analysis. They are doing IBM Cognos and Watson. So these Cognos and Watson is very, very important to get into align themselves with the industry again, and they are learning this Google AdWords, Google marketing, email marketing, Facebook marketing, Gmail marketing, even WhatsApp marketing and LinkedIn marketing, because fundamental concept of marketing are good for only theories and they are good for only definitions, but the definition cannot work in today's industry. They need to perform onto their laptop or maybe desktop, because the entire marketing has been segregated in terms of digital marketing. Similarly, in terms of HR analytics is very, very important. If any of the students who are going through HR, they want to go into HR specialization, they should go for the certification of HR analytics, maybe with any of the organization, IBM, Cognos, this IBM, anyone. A lot of different organizations are, delivering this content. And in terms of financial, if some of the students are going for financial, courses, they are into finance specialization, they go for financial modeling. They can do financial modeling via Excel. Excel is one of the fantastic tool, and they should go for, creating macros and, there's Power BI, and again, the different advanced concept of Excel they should learn so that they can succeed themselves, into the industry. And similarly, in terms of financial modeling, Tele ERP 9 is again very, very much in demand. CPA, CFA, and CMA. So this is CSCA. This is also in demand. So such kind of tools and skills they can acquire to get, aligned with the industry. So I think robotics and artificial intelligence, this design thinking, because design thinking is not only for IT students, any of the management student go into design thinking. Even law student can also go for design thinking, because I see some of the students, those who are into law fraternity and law field or maybe into media field, they are doing very good in terms of creating their applications, they're creating their apps. Students have a very good, acumen towards, creating startups. So they have that right skill set, they have that mindset, but then their skill set need to be nurtured. Their mindset has to be nurtured. So faculty has to come forward. One of the participant has asked question, I can see in the chat book, that how the mindset of the student can be changed, how we can nurture them. So first of all, I would really like to say to all the audience, the first of all, faculty has to be very, very much motivated. Faculty has to, change themselves first, because once they are aligned with the skills, then only they can deliver the right skill set to the students.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. This was really an excellent perspective. Dr. Maram, we would like to invite your perspective on how we address skilling the millions, the scale of the issue, especially when you consider access by our millions in India to digital services, etc. And I'd like to place a follow-up question. How do we create these employees of the future that, as Dr. Gupta has also referred to, be culturally sensitive, commercially sensitive, having the communication, emotional skills, moral, ethical, spiritual backing, and ensure that we take everything, all the strengths that we have in India, so the ancient Indian traditions of teaching, but really take those straight through to the future and our requirements.
Yeah, thank you. I think I always keep quoting three things which changed the way human civilization is today happening. The three things are, I think, three discoveries. One is the discovery of a computer, which happened long back, decades back. And the second biggest discovery which happened and changed the way we live is the internet. Then the third biggest discovery in human civilization, I can say, is a mobile phone. And today, out of 7.8 billion people, we have closely around 6 billion mobile phone. And the penetration of mobile phone and digital technology, especially in India, which is again highest. Today, we crossed 1.1 billion mobile connections in India. So that is the reason today, even we already completed more than 13 months of the COVID scenario globally. And I think countries like US and the UK and other European nations, they already completed more than 14 months. So today, the continuous things are happening because of the connectivity, the technology. These are helping to be, connected with all the people today. When we are connecting through this webinar, there are more than 50 people connected from across. I can see a few international people also. So I want to do a physical, this kind of a, event or a conference or a discussion, then just imagine how much traveling is required, how much resources are required. Today, the technology making that, everything simple. That is the reason today, if you look at some of the technological companies, even though in this current crisis situation, are doing extremely well. Companies like, if I talk about Indian companies, companies like Infosys, companies like Wipro, companies like TCS, they showed a double-digit growth, and still they are recruiting students from the campuses because they are able to save a lot of expenses. They are able to deliver whatever required more than that using the same resources. People sitting at home, work from home, is able to deliver much beyond what we expected. The same way, even the higher education or primary education scenario today, everything is going on. So similarly, today, if you look at the top 10 companies of the world, even the economy is degrowing when the crisis is there in this pandemic situation. But these 10 companies, the top 10 companies of the world, they are able to accumulate, or they are able to increase their market capitalization even during in crisis. And the richest people of the world, the top 10 richest people of the world, again, they are able to include or add their wealth and market capitalization even during this crisis. So all thanks to the most advanced technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. So these are all the things which are happening today in the world, which are making these companies stronger, sustainable, and grow faster. So here I would like to bring one finest example of Tesla. I think most of you people might have heard the Elon Musk recently, tweeted, and he advertised opening of some of the vacancies in his Tesla factory, where he clearly mentioned there is no graduation required to join the Tesla. So the Tesla is the #1 automobile company today in the world, and Tesla is the #2 company in the world, and Tesla founder is #2 richest person in the world. So just imagine if this kind of statements are coming from the top company of the world, where they're telling there is no proper education is required. So that shows the importance of the skills, what is required today to be successful in this world. So here again, I would like to give some example specific to management, because I'm from that field. So here, if you look at some of the textbooks which we studied 20 years back in management, nothing is changed. Only the cover page is changed. The same author, the same thing. So again, here one more example I want to quote. 2 years back, I happened to meet the marketing guru of the world, Philip Kotler in US. So I written a mail to him that I want to meet you because I attended a couple of lectures of him at Indian School of Business at Hyderabad. So then immediately he said, if you can wait one more week, so I can able to meet you. So when I met this Philip Kotler, so the first question I was asking Philip Kotler, you written a Philip Kotler book, which is a Bible in marketing across the world, where more than last 4 decades our people are following. Now the marketing, the way we market it changed today in 2020. So today, entire thing we are talking about the digital marketing, analytics, e-commerce. So are you familiar with all this topic? So the first thing what he told is, no, I'm not familiar. I don't have a Facebook account also. I don't use any digital marketing or social media. So, but still his book is more popular and he's become the global marketing professor. So what I'm trying to say from this example is today, the world is moving today. So the same phase, our education system, we are not moving. So today, if I talk about some of the global universities of the world, like Harvard or Kellogg's or Oxford or Cambridge, today, if specific to talk on the pandemic, today, the most popular vaccine, that is the largest number of people administered vaccine, the Covishield, comes from a university, the Oxford University. This is a combined research of the AstraZeneca and Oxford. So these kind of innovations are not happening in India. So even though we have a largest education system, we have a lot of our Indian people are shining globally. Today, if you talk about the global economy, the largest economy is US with more than 22 trillion economy, where 14% of the contribution comes from none other than the Indian people, Indian professors, Indian doctors, Indian IT engineers. And again, if you talk about the 100 CEOs, the top 100 company CEOs of India, that is, I'm talking about the global, starting from Google to Microsoft to talk to IBM to Pepsi to, all the leading companies today headed by none other than the Indian people. So they are heading these global companies. So how it is happening? When you look at Indian economy, again, we are not that much strong when compared than these countries. But Indian, software engineers or professors are able to lead these global institutions. So I feel the fundamentals, the basic, the foundation is very strong in India. That is the reason these people are able to reach to the global positions. So in the same way, if we can able to develop the skills along with the foundation, what we are making in primary education, I think definitely India will be a leader in coming years in all the skills, whatever we are talking, because the foundation is one thing which is required to build any kind of even a largest or even the tallest building of the world, like a Burj Khalifa. You need a strong foundation. So that strong foundation is there in the Indian education system. So, but we are unable to utilize that strong foundation to build the further steps into our student community. So that is what required today in a current scenario. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. May I now move to, we've been getting some very interesting questions from the audience. Rajneesh Gupta has asked us, what are the newer skills for students, specifically non-science, that students should focus on as against the past? So I think, we all know that we've had a focus on medicine, engineering, computer science, etc. What are the non-science skills that students should focus on, especially in the context of the pandemic and what we see coming up in the future? May I invite Dr. Gupta and then Professor Satyanarayana to respond, please? All panelists, yes. Thank you.
Amrita, if we look at non-science students, non-science means any of the marketing students or finance students, or simply in education students. So
I think non-science very broadly.
No, but the non-science is again a very, very big field, because if you look at if I take the example of media field only, because I am catering to all the 4 schools in my campus. We have the students of management, and then media and law and journalism and IT students. So I always be surrounded with all these different field of students. So if you look, I'll take one by one with every stream. If you look at the journalism students, I mean journalism field, so what kind of different skill set they have to acquire? Because I told you, students have that mindset that they have to go with the traditional curriculum. No, this will not work. Because in case of the modern journalism, newer journalism, or digital journalism, so they should know that how this entire digital journalism work, how they have to be into the blog writing, how they have to go into this kind of Google writings, and how they have to go into the newspaper and e-news content, how they have to create the advertisements for the e-generations and e-content. So such kind of things they have to learn, because when they are doing for internships, so they should not do internship only in terms of Hindi typewriting, or maybe in terms of only writing the drafting skills and legal writing skills. So they should, align themselves with the technical skills. That is again very much important. And I'm again and again focusing, because now every stream is aligned themselves with the technical requirement, because technicality is the parameter for entire all the 4 or 5 domains. So they have to align themselves with all these technical skill sets, specifically in terms of cognitive skill set and digital skill set. But if you look at this low students, if any of the students, those who are doing low curriculum, they are doing maybe this LLB or LLM, or BCom LLB or BLLB. So then they should have to learn about the artificial intelligence, how this artificial intelligence is doing fantastic things in terms of law fraternity, and how this AI is changing the entire paradigm of the law. How they are archiving their data, how there are so many cases pending, how this basis, dependency of cases can be reduced, how we can archive the entire, legal draftings, how we can, how this RTI can be accessed, and how this more and more RTI can be filled. So such kind of practicality should be addressed into their traditional curriculum. And if you look at the IT stream, definitely IT have more power, because nowadays the entire things are revolving around the IT. So any of the student who is doing BCA or maybe MCA, so BCA and MCA will only work with them, because they need to do a lot of IT skill set curriculum. I already told you that they should go for machine learning, they should go for Python, they should go for Android development, they should go for Drupal, Joomla, WordPress, Magento, PHP. These are all web development skills, and they should learn about how they can, how they can design their own applications. Because I always say to my student that you should not go only for job. Everybody is not going to get a job, or maybe they are not only doing job, they want to go into the entrepreneurship also, because students have a lot of great ideas, but their ideas need to be nurtured, their idea need to be groomed. So when their idea needs to be groomed by the faculty members or maybe their external mentors, so these ideas can convert into a business, because generally in the second year or maybe in third year, every student would be allotted a project by the university or maybe by their institution. So I always see that the student do this project only for the sake of doing a project or to get the marks, but it should not be like that. Because this project, why this project has been added into their curriculum, there is a very big thought process of the professors and policymakers. Because this project should be, the live project. Because live project does not mean that industry will give you the project. You can take any of the live cases of your society. You can take any of the live case of your own, institution. You can take the live case of your, or even of your family. So such kind of live cases can be taken, and based on those live cases, project can be created. But generally, so ultimately, the entire thing is that the student has to change their mindset first. Once the student mindset is changed, they will not purchase the project and submit their project to the faculties. They will not cut and copy the project from the Google and submit to their faculty. So if this mindset will not change, of course, we will not align with the vision of India 2030. Because in 2030, we are thinking that India would be a digitized, India. So if we really want to become into the digitization, we want to go into a newer India, then in that case, such kind of skill has to be adopted. And of course, again and again, I'm saying the mindset of the student needs to be very much aligned as per the vision, as per the requirement of the industry.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Satyanarayana, and then Dr. Maram.
Yeah, I think it's a very simple aspect. If you were to look at, you said from Indian culture perspective, from time immemorial, the education was experiential, Gurukula. I mean, students used to go to the Gurukula, and there, the teachers, they would leave and eat and stay with the Guru and learn. And that was, again, that was residential learning. And so it was, the whole of thing was experiential. And whenever they got excited, they could talk, discuss. And even then, the same form, the tutorial and the mentor aspect today in Oxford and Cambridge is essentially the Gurukula form. But we have in our ability, as you said in the beginning, scaling up of numbers. and also blindly following, I mean, to know education, because at most part of the time, to know was good enough. And therefore, we simply scaled up by just giving information. And suddenly technology went so far ahead that we were never even able to invest. And as far as internet did not come, it was still good enough because just giving information. But now that internet has come, knowledge life cycles have reduced in an accelerated way. Product life cycles have become even shorter. Suddenly, we have found to be woefully short. Though, as Dr. Maram rightly mentioned, we do a lot of education foundation very well, but we do not know how to go forward. That's why I always give the example of this quartz watches. You get a 50 rupee quartz watch or 30 rupee on the floor, and also the same Swiss quartz watch with all the capability comes for say 5 lakhs. But then the difference in the technology between them is between 95% and 95.99 in terms of fineness. So that 5% difference, whether from 2.99 and 5 nines, is where it is becoming from 50 rupees to 5 lakh watch. And therefore, we are already doing, as he rightly mentioned, the 90% of the job, but somewhere, because we ourselves do not have the exposure, we somehow are not able to do that fine finesse or the high quality. And that is where we miss the whole bus. And therefore, now the question was, what are the skills needed? The skills are very simple. I mean, the same fundamentals have to be taught well with experiential learning. Again, see, I don't have to have a Cognos IBM analytics capability software, but can I do simple programs with R and open source for analytics? From when a school kid can today do a app, develop its own app, when a school kid can do a 3D printer, why is it that an engineer cannot do? Because we don't experiment, we simply line whole sorts of complex things without understanding the fundamental. So from the school level, bring in experiential learning, and in that whether he is from arts or science or engineering, first of all, remove the fear of mathematics. Quantitative ability should be again thought process linked. I should be able to say integration means linking all information together. Then I know if I just press this button, if I put the input, the software will do. I don't need to do it, because that is where digitization enables me. Differentiation means I should know that, see, a huge problem can be split up into smaller, finer links at the smallest level, and I can even identify what is happening at the smallest level. So can I bring that quantitative also as a thought process? That is where the art and the culture, the ability to think has to come, and the contextual emotional empathy has come by bringing examples which are contextual. I mean, somebody teaching about somebody eating jacket potato in England in English here makes no sense. I mean, therefore, I need to make sure the example is contextual. So therefore, all kids, whether computational literacy is mandatory, because the digital divide is so huge. Already, I mean, now itself, the technology advancement is so fast, education is not able to cope up with the technology and the digitization divide. Let's see where education is not able to catch up. It is going to even, the acceleration is going to be further. So it's going to be even larger, and therefore there has to be a leapfrog to bring simple examples of every technology, just to remove the fear out of the technology, whether I'm a social scientist, whether I'm studying philosophy. So see, I mean, whether I'm saying, she spoke about like media, say everybody need not have a Maya, but then can I do with some smaller software? Everybody need not have SPSS. Can I learn how to do simple things with Excel? Because it's easily available. So that is what the school and the college education has to introduce and say, these are the strong fundamental, and you can do at the fundamental level, conceptual level, simplest of solution, just with the tools that you have free of cost. I mean, we're literally with your mobile phone or a calculator, but how do we bring that? So if we will have to train our teachers first in this multidisciplinary education and give the students an scope to digitization, remove the fear of quantities, numbers. I mean, because that is where, I mean, most of the problem comes up. So remove the fear of quantization, quantity from education, make it again simple. Storytelling was our time immemorial process. So can I bring that storytelling into the education to bring interest in maths, understanding fundamentals of science, so that then whether I'm a literature student, whether I'm a commerce student, so the skills would be simple computation, simple mathematics, but without the fear, removing the fear. Then I can adapt at any stage when I want to advance and increase. In the best part is even engineering. I mean, IEEE in 2017 itself said is going to become like arts. Most of the engineers therefore need to develop empathy for people. They need to look at sustainability, because now they need to find solution for people in mind, and advanced calculation will be done by some specialist. But on a day-to-day basis, I need to understand multidisciplinary problems and find a solution and move away from, bridge the divide, make people able to, it's like saying bringing a language where we all understand. It's not that we are speaking to each other in Greek and Latin, or we are speaking at people, but we are speaking to people in every subject. And that has to be brought to understand in the fundamental level. And so remove fear of maths, bring in computational knowledge mandatory, experience examples of whether it is, animation, whether it is solving a back of the hand school equation. I should be able to construct a dam. I should be able to say what will be the velocity of my vehicle, race car. So how do I bring that excitement of this? Because the kids like car, the kids like building. So can I say that give those, that is where contextualizing education, removing the fear of maths, bringing in computational capability of programming and analytical thinking and design thinking, or problem, logical process in thought process. These are all have to be done with simple examples, with even the current fundamental and just about bringing programming. Then I think people can adapt at any point of time, to any domain. Because I always say, see, for example, even now Ramakrishnan Venkatraman won a Nobel Prize in chemistry, especially linked to medical. But then he was a nuclear scientist. Up to PhD, he did nothing related to chemistry, nothing related to, say, systems biology. But from whatever chemistry he knew and all the numerical techniques that he did for particle physics, after PhD, he does a 6-month program in systems biology and brings some of his chemistry knowledge in systems biology. And he gets, after working for some years, a Nobel Prize in medicine linked chemistry. So that is the multidisciplinary approach. So that is where, some people even made fun when the AICT said, how do we remove anybody can join engineering? So I think it's a very important question. What is it that social scientists should know? I think whether it is science, physics, engineering, all have to be taught the same subject, but simplify it and make it exciting, make them understand it, not rote learning. So that is where how to make, if we make that understand, because India is a big country, when we are teaching over 30 million people, 1 lakh people who understood it, when they go, they become globally leaders because they have already done the understanding. But then the other, as you again said, the question to Professor Maram, see, how do you do now? From the 40 million, 150 million people are going to come into education. So it can only happen when we bring in the joy of learning. And that can happen when the teacher understands the subject well, and he has not mugged up and just repeatedly just does some PPT and goes away from the class. So only then it can happen. So again, say management, again, so many, see, people are going more towards emotional intelligence, spiritual quotient, empathy, and all the skills also call for sustainability. So these are newer nuances which need to be taught again in the schools. And in terms of saying stories, bring them as stories, teach the skills, whether it is maths, remove the fear of math, whether it is programming, make them a simple logical steps which they could understand, so that anywhere else they know how to put a process flow for any complicated programming when they want to do later. So therefore, re-emphasize on the school maths with understanding, emphasize with contextual examples, emphasize on programming, emphasize on physics, chemistry, maths, and also communication is very critical. Because see, I just want to conclude with saying that, you see, the whole point of education is understanding subjects and fluently communicating the idea in a multidisciplinary approach. If I cannot fluently communicate, nothing can happen. And ability to actively learn new things and link into my fundamental understanding. So that has to start from the school. Once I'm able to do that, then next higher education should tell me how to make decisions. And the decision making, again, should be further emphasized with linking, say, strategies to going to a higher order level of activity or bringing in original thinking. So all that has to start with assignment and activity in the school itself, and appreciating this capability or identifying this competence. Then any subject can be learned, and therefore one doesn't have to fear anything. Whatever we have learned, as Dr. Maram said, can we make sure in the school they practically implement it in a contextual manner, with, of course, programming as an added on. Then they will be able to adapt to everything. And that is where some of the good, small number who are good enough on abroad or got an opportunity to go abroad, they're doing well. But here we don't get an opportunity, and here we again, people who are left here have only this knowledge. They don't even want to change. Even if the industry, Indian engineer managers were willing to change, we would have had all innovation happening here. We have billion-dollar companies, but not one product to show from Indian companies. We still do have only one Nobel Prize for in 1930s for C.V. Raman in science, because we are blindly again insisting on copying and repeating and not thinking. So it is not a question of adding too many subjects. Existing science, physics, chemistry, history, and our culture and history as how they found solutions way ahead, so many years before. I mean, even in the latest, when Bose could identify electron transport even before Marconi or electron was discovered. So can we bring that thought-rich thinking education with programming as added on? Anything can be adapted, because today adaptation to change is the key, but strong fundamentals. So then we could move forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much. If I may summarize, curiosity, context, communication, these are some of the essentials, and removing all these barriers that we have, not only from subject areas, but just an interest in, shifting context from one to the other. And courage, I should say, the courage to do things and see things differently, whether it's from faculty, institutional, or students' perspectives. Thank you so much. Dr. Maram, may I invite your perspectives on skills from the non-science area?
Yeah, so today, if you talk about skills, again, globally, there is a misconception of going only to the STEM education. But today, there are so many, we require so many drivers, so many plumbers, so many carpenters. So this area, we are unable to focus because, the kind of the training which happening again, we missed one more thing, like India as Vishwa Guru, like thousands of years back, we had a Takshashila, we had a Nalanda, we had one of the world's best institutions. That time, there is no roads, there is no flights, there is no proper transportation system which is available. But people used to walk for months and years to come to India, all neighboring countries, close to India. They used to walk and come to India and enroll in these universities, Takshashila and Nalanda, all these universities, and they study. So what skills they were teaching? That time there is no computer, there is no technology, there is nothing available. So, but we are called as a Vishwa Guru, where entire world is looking at India as a destination for knowledge, destination for education. So from there now at present, today we are looking at all other universities of the world, even as smaller universities, neighboring universities of the world, where not only we, the entire student community, parent community, they want to send their kids to US, they want to send their kids to Europe. Today, again, when I'm talking about the largest education system here, we also send the largest number of students to other countries. So why this is happening? What is the reason? And as rightly told Dr. Satyanarayan, we had only one Nobel laureate that time. And we had a couple of other Nobel laureates who are Indians, moved to other country, and they're able to win the Nobel prize in different field. So why this is happening again? Because we are unable to, change our way we are educating our students in the last 70 years. So we are not changed much than what we were reading, which is developed by the Britishers system. We are unable to change the curriculum. We are unable to change the way we deliver. Still, our convocations happen in a gown which is done by Britishers. Still, we call our judicial system as a lard. So we don't have our own innovations. That is how today we are lacking in everywhere. So today, if you talk about the number one e-commerce company, Amazon, they don't produce anything, but they're the number one company. Today, if you talk about the number one car rental company, the Uber, they don't own even a single tire, but they're the number one car rental company. The same way today, I was talking with one of the company which is in Mumbai. I hope most of you people might have heard of Mumbai Dabbawalas. So they have a 99.999% accuracy in delivering the lunch boxes to the Mumbai people from decades. And they are known for that. And there are case studies in Harvard. There are case studies in larger universities talking about the accuracy, the delivery system, the logistics which they made global. But today, because of this pandemic and COVID situation, last 1 year, they're suffering. They're unable to sustain. They're unable to continue their job and feed their family. So why? Because they have a skill. And I was talking to the same company where today large number of people, delivery people are required for Amazon, for a Swiggy, for a courier agencies. Today all the things are going towards the e-commerce. Today all Big Basket, Big Bazaar, you name any company today, the delivery is happening through e-commerce way. So why not we recruit all these dabbawalas, and they can effectively deliver, and they know the places. They are much familiar with the way they train. So why not we use these all dabbawalas for this purpose where they can survive. So the same way in India we have so many things which we luckily we are strong in our system. So today, again, if you are talking about the skills specific to my organization, I'm talking the Vision Digital India. We are a very new company. We are less than a 5-year-old organization, but still what model we adopted is a blended learning model where we deliver most advanced technology programs which are relevant to the industry today, talking to the data science, analytics, Python, R, AI, virtual reality, IoT, all these digital marketing programs. We deliver using a blended learning program, and we are able to reach 1 lakh numbers, and looking forward to reach to the 1 million in next 4 to 5 years. So the simple way what we adopted is the cost-effective way, because we felt to sustain in India, we have to be a cost-effective, and we have to be a quality-oriented. So these are the two things we adopted, and our faculty is able to reach to larger number. So unlike today, the COVID scenario is, the entire infrastructure, whatever our universities or colleges are developed, we are unable to use this infrastructure. So much, 95% of the money of any of these education institutions are spent on the infrastructure development. But nobody thought there is a need of spending money and developing, the technology skills to deliver these kind of scenarios. So now suddenly with this scenario, then last 1 year, everything is moved to online. So I don't know, maybe next academic cycle also, maybe through online. So now how to sustain? There are so many universities are closing, so many primary schools are already closed. So how we are unable to cope up with the new changes and new ways things are moving. So that is how in our education system we need innovation. We need a kind of out-of-box thinking. Then only we can able to become again a Vishwa Guru, which is known to the world by India. So I think with the kind of a knowledge, with the kind of a skill, with the kind of advantages what we have today, the demographic dividend, what I discussed, I think definitely India is the greatest destination for this world to look and to transform youth into the responsible citizens. So here to conclude, I just want to give one small example. I'm also a president of one of the organization called Lead India Foundation, which is started by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the 11th president, the missile man. So, so I taken over as a president just a couple of months back when the COVID situation is there. So we are unable to celebrate his 90th birth anniversary. So what we thought is even we cannot able to meet physical, why not we can use the technology. That's how what we done is we connected with the global followers of Abdul Kalam and some of the global leaders, including the prime ministers, including the corporate leaders and NGOs. So we did a 28 hours continuous Zoom webinar, how we are doing now, in a 10 different time zones with a 149 speakers, 149 speakers from 47 countries. So, and that we became that became a world record. that became a world record, and we created a world record in a not spending much money, with only just using a technology, using the resources. The same way we created a 3 world record during this pandemic in the last 3-4 months. So what I'm telling, the opportunities are plenty. So only thing is we are unable to utilize these opportunities and move in a right direction. So the skills are the only thing which can able to enhance our ability to look into this kind of opportunities to become Vishwaguru. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Maram. There is a question around, skilling and health personnel. So if I may quickly respond to that briefly, is to say that for health personnel, obviously, this is a hugely challenging time. And I think the challenge is not just today. The challenge is to be prepared for these things as they come. We have all forgotten the lessons that we should have learned in the 1918 flu epidemic that ripped across the world. And sadly, we are, I think, quite efficient at forgetting lessons not only from 100 years ago, but even perhaps from the beginning of the pandemic to this crushing second wave we are seeing now. So I think for
I'll
health
be happy
personnel,
to answer.
Yes.
If you think.
Yeah. I'll just, yes, certainly. I'll just finish my point. So I think
sorry.
for health personnel, I think whether you're talking about physicians or paramedics or diagnostics folk or health policy, health communications, one of the most important things is to understand case-based learning. So what you read in your textbooks, what you understand in terms of the basic concepts, we start from there, but how it translates on the ground on your first day to solve a problem, to look at a challenge, whether it's in non-pandemic times or not, this is about real life. And that case-based learning is very important to have as a tool before one goes out in the world. So that's my brief, take on that. So it's again changing the way faculty approach this, changing the pedagogy, the curriculum, and the assessment and the outcomes. So Professor Satyanarayana?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a quick point that, as you know, suppose if I want to be a health professional, I mean, in US, I should have already done a degree. Mandatorily, I should have done a degree even before I get into health professional. So I think that is where having a foundation in some domain and then moving into a health professional, there, as you rightly mentioned, first of all, a bit more of pedagogy, a maturity into analysis, project-based learning, all that would have been set to some level, and then they would study the subject. And anyway, the whole education pedagogy, even the accreditation norms for health education today, once again mandates competence-based assessment, because they have severe emphasis on competence-based assessment. And then again, the bigger challenge is that today everything is technology enabled. So if I were an allied health profession, whether I'm doing, for optical imaging, or whether I'm working for an ophthalmologist, or whether I'm working for, scanning of the bone or an ECG image or whatever, everywhere, then maybe they should even get a small overview of, say, tools which could do image processing, signal processing, artificial, because they would help them to diagnose or get inferences better with a good database. So their computational literacy, ability to do some of these courses, they not to have a very complicated one, but say a bit more of review on their, again, I would say simple school physics, because the most of the measurements and say that they do or has helped. So these are things which need to be highlighted. And I would even say similarly with management, because today, people just doing management after a BSc or a BA, BBA, they should have 5 years or 10 years industry experience in a domain and then do management. It makes sense. Otherwise, see, they're completely dependent on somebody else to give them technical inputs, or whether it's financial or whether it is analytics or whether it's engineering. So I think likewise in case of medical, maybe bringing in a provision for some prior learning, or maybe they work as an allied health worker and then go into an extra higher education into core. Of course, they would know physiology by default, but then can do education, then it becomes good and mandatory for all health workers. I think a quick overview on some amount of computational capability. Some simple softwares today which are good to do image processing, signal processing, analytics, could be also a mandatory training so that they can take quicker decisions or be more effective, because so much of instrumentation and data they need to deal with, and including even doctors are today doing remote surgery. And so their cognitive ability has to be so well developed that I'm standing somewhere seeing a 120-inch screen, but doing a 1 millimeter incision with a 5 millimeter scalpel, and I have to do it with a precision. And see that I don't even cut more than millimeters, so that I don't cut any nearby nerve. My pressure is to, so somewhere technology can enable them to practice. Maybe we ourselves with an Indian small startup developed a product which already, for example, in Karnataka, Bangalore Medical College, it's approved. And today even a technician can learn laparoscopy surgery with precision of a millimeter or even hundreds of micron with that equipment, and it is just 15,000-20,000 cost compared to imported equipment. So I think technology will enable medical domain further, but they all also need to have a quick overlook of, appropriately tailored, simple content, again, removing fear out of technology for them, and with practice, I think they can do even more great wonders with the dedicated job that they do. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
I want
Professor
to just
Satyanarayana.
add one point and conclude. I think when this question relevant to this question, healthcare, today we require the COVID vaccine doses. So we don't have a people to administer these many, like I'm talking about 1.35 billion people, 2 doses if you take, we need 2.7 billion doses to be administered. So everyone talks about it will take 3 years, 4 years and all. And some of the countries like, Israel, Bhutan, they already done a 90% of the vaccination. So today we require a huge number of the people who are familiar to do, the vaccine administration. So this can be trained and this can be administered by people. And the same way, today we require so many people to do the COVID, test, RT-PCR or whatever test which is there. So we don't have many people to do this test. That's why we are unable to predict this disease, and this disease is spreading and we are in second wave. We don't know where we are moving. So these all skills which are relevant to the current scenario, which is a current trend, I think we have to train, and in that area, if we can work, I think definitely we can achieve much bigger, goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maram. To wind up at this time, may I invite all of our panelists to give us a one-line takeaway for our excellent audience who are currently watching and who will watch later on. May I start with Dr. Manju Gupta, please?
I would like to say skill enhancement topics, practical components, an introduction to a very different approach to learning across all levels is important. And this has to be blended with curriculum. And if you look at the National Education Policy 2020, curriculum of higher education institutions have included credit-based courses and projects in the area of community engagement. So this curriculum will help this youth to understand the concept of social responsibility. And the youth will also be able to relate the complexity of business environment with the needs of the community. And thus, when the youth will become sensitive to its own environment, it will surely increase the creativity and inventiveness in his job hunt. So generally, some of the students were asking the question, how this curriculum, how this value-based education will increase the chances of employability. So I would really like to say in one line, when the youth will become sensitive to its own environment, it will surely increase the creativity and inventiveness in his job hunt. So I think this is my final word in terms of the job hunting related to the National Education Policy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. Really, really important point. May I invite Dr. Maram, please, your key takeaway from this session, for this session.
Yeah, I think to make it simple, I think we have to ignite the minds of people, then only the transformation comes. For that, the innovation is the key, and training is the key. So we have to give a hands-on training to our students from primary level. Then only things will happen. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maram. Professor Satyanarayana?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for Chetan and the skills reform team for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts, and equally learning from all the other panelists. I just want to say that some key point is, recently in 2017, Korean government came out with an education policy. which said education first, learning next. Sorry, employment first and learning next. 2000s, 100% literacy state says employment first and learning next. They said get into the job, learn the skills, and then link to that, start study towards your area of passion. Or it is like saying, like an Indian marriage, once I'm married, I start liking my wife, or my wife starts loving me. I mean, an arranged marriage, whatever it is. So the key point is now, first of all, the teachers have to reform and see that they are privileged. I mean, every teacher in this nation of 130, close to 40 million, going to be 150 million, are privileged. We cannot think it as a job. And we make sure we create the joy of learning, as also, ignite the mind, as Dr. Maram said, or Professor Kalam also said earlier. Create that passion in the kid to learn, because 21st century learning is ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn, or skill, upskill, reskill. So all that can happen. It has to be individual driven, like whole of Indian philosophy. The karma, or my own moksha, is I have to find my path. So that is, education is that. And so the teacher has to ignite it, and this has to be seamlessly linked, and we have to remove away the stigma of vocationalization. Vocational education and normal education should be able to seamlessly link and cross paths and take to any level of excellence and proficiency. I think then anything can happen. So it has to start with the teacher, that he has to change. I mean, again, I end with Eric Hoffer's word. He said, in times of change, the learners inherit the earth, and the learned are wonderfully equipped with solutions to problems that no more exist. This should change. This should not be the basis. Now, we as teachers have to be willing to change and enable our students and excite them with education and able to teach them to learn on their own and get excited with learning. Then all the skills will be learned on their own, because it's self-perception where skills can be, competence can be gained. Nobody can do it. You can take a horse to the water, but horse has to drink it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Satyanarayana. I think our audience has been hugely engaged and has listened in a very active manner, should I say, because I can see some wonderful summaries of all the points that have been made. So my job is made much easier. I'd like to just hark back to the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, which is something that the NEP 2020 has also drawn on. I think one point that I'd like to make, we have focused entirely on skills, on employability, which is the focus of our topic. All of this would not be possible without the strongest base of basic research that is ongoing and of the highest quality to underpin, whether we're talking about a university or college, a skilling institution, or, all the other organizations that exist. The high quality basic education and research that informs what is the next level of skilling, what are the next type of multidisciplinary thoughts, etc. So there has to be, I think, a proper layering and an appreciation of the importance of that across higher education. So basic research and education, the skills, the employability, and all of that must work in a continuum. So at this point, I'd like to thank all of you, all of our eminent panelists, Professor Satyanarayana, Dr. Harikrishna Maram, Dr. Manju Gupta, for your time, for your inputs, for your energy and your commitment to this discussion and this topic, and to Skills Reform for putting together such an excellent group and a compelling topic, and to drawing all the audience together for all of us. I'll hand over back to you now, Chetan.
Thank you so much, Amrita. And thank you so much to all the panelists for giving such a great perspective on higher education and skilling the millions. I know it is a very humongous task in front of us as an educator, policymakers, and administrators, and you have done a brilliant job in terms of providing your inputs on that. And I would like to thank you all. Thanks to all the wonderful participants here. I can see a lot of you, those who have come for the first time at Skills Reform, for joining us today. And we were certainly delighted to get so many amazing questions from you. But looking at the paucity of time, we tried taking up as many questions as we could. We at Skills Reform look forward to more collaborations with all of you and inviting you in many such exciting discussions in coming time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.